The title for our presentation is Economy and Sustainability of Printing Inks, and really what we mean is within the confines of your processes and your organizations. Economy speaks to obviously the dollars and cents that are too many times wasted with leftovers and with make ready, and sustainability is inventory. What we talk about with regards to the challenges of managing making just what we need for a given run, or perhaps just correcting enough ink so that we're not making too many leftovers. So there are a lot of challenges out there, as I'm sure you're all well aware. We want to explore those a little bit so that we can frame this properly. One of the big challenges is customer expectations. They come to us with a given color that's maybe a brand color or a Pantone color in some cases, and then they want us to reproduce that. Their expectation is that this is not a hard process in some ways, that it's just ink on paper. But we know all the pain that can come with that, the frustrations of formulating the inks, especially when we're talking about different thicknesses or different viscosities, and that includes different processes too, be it flexogravure or screen printing. There's challenges that meet all of us somewhere in the middle. Let's consider the economy that we spoke about earlier. We always have to account for so much. It's not just ink on paper when we really get down to it. We have to accommodate for our facilities. There's the purchasing and then the maintenance and care of our printing presses, which is really where our money is made, right? Of course, there's the rising costs of substrates, depending on if you're printing on film or if you're doing standard printing on pulp paper. There's been a lot of strides, but there's still, substrate costs are a lot. And when we start to look at that in the forms of, what kind of waste can we reduce, then we start to realize some real return on investments when we look at the IFS solution. Of course, we have the printing inks to consider. We never want to use more than we have to, because who wants to drum off either leftovers or in some cases waste? Again, both things are cost intensive. And then we have our staff, and we have to realize right now in the printing industry we have an aging workforce, and many pressmen I've met in my time have years and years of skill and learned knowledge that they have from a very organic nature accumulated in the course of their careers. But we don't find as many people out there that, it takes those years to actually accumulate all that knowledge. So, sometimes staffing can be a source of cost too. And of course, all these tie back into time. Time is money. If we can save you time, we can save you money. So we have increasing customer demands out there in the world of printing, and I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys this. Be it them asking us for a new Pantone color that was newly released, or if they're working from a brand palette or some custom colors that they just called out to you. We have to rise to the occasion to meet those demands, because we all realize if we don't meet those demands, they're going to look for somebody else, a competitor, to rise to that occasion. There's varying substrates. We have virgin board versus recycled board. Are we going to get the same prints out of the same printing ink? Well, we all know the answer to that question is no. That that depending on substrate, we're going to have to adjust our formulations and maybe adjust our thicknesses or viscosities to really address the differences in substrates that we're dealing with. Of course, shorter runs can always be problematic, though. We have more time to build up, make ready, and tear down, clean up. So these things take time. We're switching out rolls, all kinds of steps that go in between there. But, you know, again, this is a customer demand that we have to try to build versatility and flexibility into our processes. But we're all looking for, you know, faster turnaround times, right? But sometimes I think people mistake the world of printing and they liken it to a fast food takeout window. It's not that way. Everybody wants faster turnaround times, but unfortunately we have to look for our own cost saving measures internally because they don't really want to pay. So and the big hinge, higher quality of our final product. How are we going to deliver consistently a high quality product again and again that meets our customers' expectations and keeps them happy and gets us further business? So we can use IFS software to help you in certain ways, and I want to take some time to talk about what those ways are so you realize where the real return on investment lies here. That brings us right there to material waste and cost reduction. So if we can use the ink formulation software to give us more efficiency in our process, then we can reduce stock sizes, we can improve turn times, fewer leftovers, and, you know, fewer mistakes in mixing can also lead us to time savings as well. And all these are little things that actually start to accumulate and give us a good return on investment when we look at this. Disposal costs, always a thorn in our side when we're thinking about, boy, I actually have to have this drummed off and disposed of, and that there's a cost associated with that we just can't get around. So we have to consider that. Misprints, it's a real shame when we discover a quality issue on press and we're pretty far in to the run. This really hurts us. I'm sure you guys have all scowled as you've had to dispose of misprints. It's really unfortunate, but that's dollars and cents going into the garbage right in front of our eyes. And of course, let's make ready waste. The quicker we can get dialed in, get our press ready, get our color on, and get moving, you know, the better off we are. Because let's face it, if the press isn't running, we aren't making money. Lower substrate disposal costs, and again, this is associated with misprints. We want to keep that substrate controlled. The less of it we have to use for our make ready, the better off we're going to be in the end. Okay, so we're looking to reduce your press downtime. The more productive we can keep you, of course, the more money you're going to make. You all know that that press is the lifeblood of your business. Fast and accurate color correction on press can be something that we can aid and assist you with to keep you your run honest from start to finish, if you will. We can reduce time for color adjustment on press, and that's a big deal. Once that ink comes out of the ink kitchen, we all know that if we put it in the press, our job is far from done. And the more time we can save from end to end, again, we're just talking about cost savings here, and these are all things that IFS can lend to us. Easy standardization and implementation. We want to be able to make you successful and get you off to the races. We want you to be able to implement and understand our solution and see where the value is added for you. So we have a lot of custom colors coming out all the time. People are coming with new color palettes or new color systems. They designers are getting more and more creative in their use of color, in not only logos but in complex prints, things that have a lot of intricate inner workings to them. So when we get a sample target color, we have to consider that's on a sample substrate, and then we can get the same ink on a different substrate. And again, we all know that how that story goes. If we have substrate variation, we may be in trouble here. But IFS addresses that directly. So then we have to recorrect that ink back towards the target color so that we can get the same color on our printing substrate as we had in our approved proof. And we looked at to help you minimize that time and be as efficient with it as possible. We generally say here at X-Rite Pantone that we have about an 80 to 85% first formulation success rate. And then we always say that the assortments are performing, and the assortments are the inks that are used to formulate with, that the assortments are performing well if we can get there in an initial formulation or one or two hits after that. So we have a lot of production variables, and IFS does a really good job at addressing many of the things that are really common to our processes, and they can become pain points. Things like ink viscosity, substrate and appearance, perhaps light dark substrates, things of that nature. And then, of course, ink film thickness. We know different analox rollers are going to give us a different impression on the very same ink. So we have to be cognizant of all these things. And again, this is something that has been built into IFS. It was the first software that was only targeted at the ink and print market. It's its sole reason for existing, just to service that very important segment. So things that we have, what we hope to introduce to you today is this end-to-end solution, this complete tool set where we're integrating the IFS software on a PC workstation with a X-Rite exact spectrophotometer, if that's the type that'll suit your needs. Perhaps if you're printing on a foil substrate, we might look at a solution like a CI64 from X-Rite as well. But generally, we're looking at the ink formulation coupled with our exact device. And then if we have good scaling systems, good proofing systems in the lab, or at least very consistent methods, we can have a really high level of success performing with this software. We always have to consider what I referenced just before, our ink assortment. Usually this is between 10 to 16 basic colors to try to give you a large range of gamut. Or transparent whites and extenders can be accounted for. And we do this all this work on a singular substrate. And we usually have to talk with our ink suppliers. We have to be careful letting them know and communicating openly with them. Look, I need consistent color time after time with regards to hue, strength, chromaticity. We need all these things to be accurate so we can be successful time after time. We have to account for all those different factors that we spoke about: the ink film thickness, the substrate, the viscosity. So many times ink companies already have assortments ready for you if you're using their systems to work with IFS. A lot of them are proactive and have these ready for you at your disposal upon request. So we need a few things. First, we need a target color, right? Here comes our brand owner, and he says, I want this color, and I want it to be just like I presented to you in this proof. So then with the exact solution coupled with IFS, all we do is measure. We measure that target. Then the great thing about IFS is we measure our working substrate, the substrate we intend to use for the press run. And then we can either accept or adjust the colorants that it presents to us, and then get a calculated recipe. And it really is that simple when it comes down to the usage of the software. I'm talking about measurement to formula result within a period of a minute to a minute and a half, depending on selections. Okay, so let's take a look at that workflow. Right here, we see the typical measurement screen. So right at this moment in the software, we would click the icon on the left with the cup, and this screen would come up. This is the measurement screen. We're ready to measure with our device the target color. We execute that measurement. Right away, you can see we measured Pantone 2583C. Now we can measure our substrate in. We can define that so that we realize our what the color of the substrate's already imparting. Again, we pick our colorants. What are our tools? What are our weapons? And in here, you can see something really interesting that I alluded to earlier. You see the additions of some leftover inks that we had from a previous run. We can let the software incorporate those inks to use up the waste that we had, or use up the formulated ink from another run. So right here, you can already see we have the opportunity to incorporate those other inks and get them into the system, get them out of our storage. We're presented with a number of formulations right there. Just as I talk through this is about how quickly we can move through the workflow. You can see we have a number of different formulations presented. We could filter these or use sorting criteria like X-Rite's optimum, which is usually based on a number of factors like spectral deviation and number of components in delta E, or we could sort this by price. Why do I want to use a quinacridone when I can get away with a methyl violet? I think, all of us know that versatility in how we put formulas together can be a huge cost savings. So we don't have to always, maybe 1 unit delta E is acceptable. Maybe 3 units of delta E is acceptable. So if we start to look at it from a cost perspective, which formula costs me the least to make and has the highest level of acceptability at a given cost? And then right here, you can see, here's our formula. We've even incorporated some of that leftover violet with a little bit of red, yellow, violet, and extender, and we have a fresh 100 grams of ink that is within a 0.2 delta E, and we're only paying 91 cents to make that. Okay, so right here, we're at the end of our workflow, and we have a formula that we can mix up, proof out, and hopefully we're off to the races. So what are our benefits? What's our return? Fast, accurate ink formulation on any substrate that you can scan. This is plastic films, this is poly, this is craft paper, this is white stock, this is anything you can think of, cardboard, so corrugated, so we can quickly achieve an accurate match right to our specified color. And we're going to get close right out of the gate, but as I said, the program has a correction in it, so the software kind of will start to understand, okay, well, I didn't get there on a singular hit, let's move on and get there by a correction. We can reduce those pesky leftovers, and we reduce the press downtime inevitably. Okay, and this obviously minimizes the rising costs. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us and letting us share this solution with you. We really appreciate your time this morning, and look forward to taking a few questions.